Want to scare yourself without breaking the bank? So watch this video completely, because in today's video, I will show you the 10 best free horror games on Steam that you can play in 2022 and 2023. So without any delay, let's start this video. Number 1, we have SCP Secret Laboratory. The events of Secret Laboratory. This game take place during a containment breach perpetrated by the Chaos Insurgents, a group that aims to free the potentially hazardous beings held at SCP Foundation location. You may play as anybody from the Foundation's security to a scientist to a D-class prisoner to a member of the Chaos Insurgents, and everyone in between. Next up, we have The House in the Woods. The Blair Witch Project was the inspiration for the game The House in the Woods. It lets you go through a huge forest and find out as much as you can. It has good gameplay, but the near-perfect atmosphere really helps to keep players on edge. Its visual design harkens back to several PlayStation 1 horror titles. Number 3, we have Dark Deception. If Pac-Man were played from a first-person perspective and the enemies came straight out of your worst nightmares, the game would be a lot like this one. In Dark Deception, you find yourself in a labyrinth full with deadly traps with nowhere to go. Only by escaping and getting away from the creatures do you have a chance of staying alive. Number 4, we have Cry of Fear. In this game, you take on the role of a young guy who is exploring a Scandinavian city as terrifying beasts fall upon him. You have to do all you can to stay alive, and you have to find out what is genuine and what isn't. If you're too terrified to play Cry of Fear by yourself, you can always join a group of pals together to face the game's spooky and horrific environment. Number 5, we have Tiny Bunny Prologue. The game mashes together elements of otherworldly terror and psychological suspense, making for a distressing yet compelling adventure. The game's art design is another strong point. The story is carried along by the stark black and white imagery, which is both aesthetically pleasing and unsettling. Next up, we have Dead Frontier 2. Dead Frontier 2, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, places players in the middle of an open environment during a zombie epidemic. Trading and scavenging with other players for the resources you need to stay alive in the game environment is possible. Next up, we have Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft. The game generates a chilling atmosphere that will keep you engrossed for hours, regardless of whether or not you like H.P. Lovecraft's famous horror stories. This game is based on a narrative from Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, and is an excellent adaptation of the source material, whether or not you're familiar with the source material. Next up, we have No More Room in Hell. No More Room in Hell is as relevant as ever and is constantly being updated. To the untrained eye, it seems like just another zombie survival game. But owing to its 8-player cooperative, Dead Island is really rather unique and a lot of fun to play. While some may think the visual style to be a bit too generic to be genuinely frightening, everyone can agree on how dreadful it feels to be encircled with no ammunition. Number 9, we have Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. While the first few hours of Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion are lighter and more humorous, the game eventually becomes much more akin to a conventional horror experience. In that regard, its cutesy look may seem like a turnoff, but the story ends up being rather effective. Number 10, we have Unfortunate Spacemen. This first-person shooter cooperative game shares many of the social deception gameplay elements of Among Us. Unfortunate Spacemen has a significantly more intense tone than Among Us and focuses mostly on action sequences. Although the game's tone and mood might provide for some really terrifying experiences, it is not a standard horror game. So that's the list of 10 best free horror games on Steam that you can play in 2022 and 2023. Your support is much appreciated if you like the video and want to see more from Games Puff.